And it's so easy to see these days. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation. It is the 19th of August, 2025. And yes, the subterfuge, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the propagandizing continues nonstop, unceasingly. And for that reason, I tell the media, you won't be trusted anymore. All right, welcome to the Taco Tuesday edition of the WTF Reports. I'm Dave vonKleist, and I am WTF with the facts, the audio receipts. That's how we play it here on the WTF Reports. And if those receipts make you sit back in your chair and exclaim, WTF, well, then that's the point. Anyway, I'm glad to have you aboard, and we broadcast live from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and of course on the Pacific, that would be from 11 a.m. until 12 noon. And in between, if you're Mountain or Central, do the math. You'll figure it out. 12 noon Mountain Time or 1 o'clock Central Time. That's when we start the program. So if you're listening during those times, that means we are live, and that means you can call in. The phone number here is 215-867-8255. And when you do call in, I ask that you try to stay on topic, whatever it is topic. And, of course, it's a shotgun blast of topics on this program. But and if you have something new that you want to bring to the table, I invite that too. So, again, the phone number here is 215-867-8255. And this broadcast is brought to you in part by the Wave Watch. Yes, you've heard me talking about this for quite some time, and I will continue to sing the praises of Rife technology. If you haven't heard about Rife machines, well, do some research, and once you understand how those frequencies work, you'll understand why it is so significant that there is a Rife machine you can wear on your wrist. It's a wristwatch. And there are over 1,000 frequencies there that can do all kinds of interesting things for you. But anyway, check it out. Check out the Wave Watch. And if you decide to get one, use the promo code REDPILL100 and you will save $100. Yeah, that's it. The Wave Watch. It's technology that you can wear. Anyway, okay, where do I start? There are more and more posts. And I've been going through, I look at Instagram and TikTok, and mostly X, to be honest with you. X is just a plethora of all kinds of information. And I find it quite entertaining and informative. And, I go to Facebook once in a while, but no, I've moved away from Facebook. Zuckerberg, no, not going to go there. But anyway, there are more and more posts. People are now taking serious looks at what's going on with all this talk about extraterrestrials, the big news right now is that there's this big object moving into our solar system, and it's called, 3I Atlas, I believe it is, 3I Atlas. The third interstellar / Atlas, whatever that stands for. But apparently there's this object that's moved into our solar system, and, they noticed it in the beginning of the month of July. And this thing is huge. It's like the size of Manhattan Island. It's about, anywhere between 8 and 11 miles across. And it's moving at an incredible rate of speed. And some of the scientists watching this thing are saying there's only a 0.05% chance that it's not intelligent. That means a 99.5% that it is? Okay, what are they setting us up for? Is this Operation Blue Beam coming to fruition? I don't know. I do know my own life experience, and I'll share a little bit about that. When I was a kid, my dad was Air Force. And, there's a lot of people that are in the military, and if you're Air Force, believe it or not, only 1 out of 500 members of the Air Force are actually pilots. And my dad, there's pilots for transport planes and helicopters and stuff, but my dad flew jets. He was a trainer pilot, a test pilot, and a fighter pilot. Yeah, he was like one of the top guns, if not the top gun. Rather prestigious. So, I was an Air Force brat. As a young child, Dad was stationed at Randolph Air Force Base outside of San Antonio. And we lived just off of the base. As a matter of fact, I remember the address. It was 126 Wynn Avenue. Funny how you remember those things from all those years ago. But anyway, then my dad was transferred to Elmendorf Air Force Base, just outside of Anchorage, Alaska. And so I was up there, I was up there for 8th grade and 10th grade. And when I was in, I believe it was 10th grade, I was riding home from on my bike. And it was a clear evening, and you could see the mountains in the distance. And they weren't all that far away, maybe only, 5-10 miles away. And anyway, I was just riding my bike, and I saw this thing drop out of the sky. It looked like at first it was just a shooting star. It went, and it stopped. And I was looking at this thing, and the mountains were behind it. So, I mean, this thing was like local. I mean, when the mountains are behind it, this thing just drops down and stops. And I'm saying, whoa. And then it moved to the left and stopped. And then it went to the right and stopped. And I'm going, whoa, oh my God. And then it stopped again where it originally come to a stop. And then it went, and it was gone. Whoa! I pedaled home as fast as I could. I burst in the door. Dad, I saw this thing. It came down. He said, whoa, slow down, Dave. Slow down. Dad, I saw this thing, and it came down. What? Slow down. Dad, I saw this thing, and it dropped down, and it stopped. And then he grabbed me by the shirt, and he pulled me into his face. And he says, you didn't see it. But Dad, I swear to God, I'm not lying. You didn't see it. Dad, I know what I saw. You didn't see it. You're not going to talk about this anymore. Dad, I saw it. This is final. You are not to discuss this. If I hear you bring this up again, you'll be grounded forever. But Dad, I mean it. And he struck the fear of God into me. He told me I was never to discuss this. And so I carried that for a lot of years. And that was in the late 60s. And then in the mid-70s, I was in a band, and I was driving home from a gig late one night, and the female vocalist, she was driving. I was in the passenger seat. And we're driving. This was in Connecticut, as a matter of fact, and I was driving north on Route 8. And I happened to be looking up at the sky, and I saw this weird thing moving across the sky. And it was a red light with 3 white lights in a triangle around the red light. And as it was moving across the sky, the 3 white lights were rotating around the red light. I'm watching this thing. I said, what the heck is that? And I said, Lisa, pull the car over. She said, what, Dave? What? Pull the car over. No, trust me. Just pull over. There's nobody here. Just pull over. I got to show you something. So, do it. So she pulls over, and we stop, and I say, now look at that. And she looks up, and she's like, whoa, what is that? I said, I don't know. And we watched that thing. Anyway, so that was a second sighting that I had. And anyway, I could go on. I've had a couple more sightings. But the one the first one, and when I talked to my dad about it, 20 years or so later, Dad was retired, and I went to visit with him. And I said to him, hey, Dad, you remember when I came home that time, and I was totally freaked out about that thing that I saw up in the sky? He says, yeah, I remember that. I said, Dad, tell me about that. And he says, well, Dave, he says, I know you saw something. He says, but I couldn't have my son running around the Air Force Base talking about UFOs. I mean, Operation Blue Book was still in place, the Air Force investigation into UFOs. And the problem is that if the Air Force was to acknowledge that UFOs existed, they'd also have to admit that they have no defense against such technology. And that's one of the reasons why they shut down Operation Blue Book, because they couldn't admit that this was real. So Dad told me, he says, this is why I had to shut you down. I couldn't have you looking, He says, yeah, I know. We used to see that stuff all the time. We used to call them bogeys. We called them Foo Fighters. We called them Santa Claus. We had all kinds of nicknames because we saw them all the time. So anyway, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because now there's all this media attention to this anomaly that's come into our solar system, and they're expecting it's going to pass by. Well, it's not going to be real close to Earth, but it's going to be passing fairly close, in between the orbit of the Earth and Mars, and that's supposed to happen sometime in October, November, I forget. But the point is that there is an increasing amount of media that's talking more and more about UFOs, extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings, spirits. And so I can't help but think, a lot of the good books, the Bible is filled with references to angels and demons. So the question is that are these angels or demons or both, are they here? Have they been here the whole time? And if so, wouldn't that mean that they, if they're not of this world, if they're not of this terra firma, if they're not terrestrials, that would mean that they are extraterrestrials. So the question is, when an angel comes down from heaven, is that an extraterrestrial? You got to think about this. And I know a lot of people are very upset. They get really freaked out when we talk about subjects like this, but I'm just asking questions. I'd be curious to know what you think. Is there anybody out there that's seen something that they would not be able to explain? Is there somebody out there that's seen a UFO, or now they call them UAPs? And also, and I've mentioned this in the past, and if you haven't checked this out, I really highly suggest you do. Get a paper and pencil, write down this website. It is ingersolllockwood.com. ingersolllockwood.com. And that's Ingersoll with 2 L's and then another L for Lockwood. So you got to have 3 L's. ingersolllockwood.com. Now, when you go to that website, it'll pop up. It says United States Space Force. And I've mentioned this website before, but I'm mentioning it again because you have to go back and keep checking on it, because there are hidden links all over the place, and they keep changing. And they're fascinating. So if you haven't gone to ingersolllockwood.com, check it out. And when you do it on a computer and move your cursor over every letter, every space, every punctuation mark, and even in some of the empty spaces, you'll find that there are hidden links all over the place. Now, again, for those of you who've never heard of Ingersoll Lockwood, he was a novelist who lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And he was friends with Nikola Tesla. Yeah. Now, we all know, hopefully you know, that Nikola Tesla was an absolutely brilliant individual, and he was bringing forth technologies that the powers that be did not want released. And the funny thing is about Ingersoll Lockwood, he wrote several novels, 3 of them of which featured a main character by the name of Baron Trump. Interesting. Well, it gets even more interesting because you have to ask the question, now why would the United States Space Force have a website? And by the way, it's a recruitment website. You can sign up and join the Space Force or join the Marines or join the Army. They have a recruitment page that collects information. You could put your name, address, your email, blah, blah, blah. And now that alone indicates to me that this is not a bogus website, because if it was, and if there was somebody putting a website out there that was posing as a recruitment website for the military, the government would take it down yesterday. So if it hasn't been taken down, it's been up there for several years, I have to figure out, well, gosh, maybe this is a legitimate website. Maybe there really is a reason why they would have all these hidden links. And if you go through it, like I said, there are links there. One of them takes you to the 2022 Pentagon report on UAPs. What? This is the Space Force recruitment website, and they're leading you to a government report, a Pentagon report on UAPs? And then you click on another site, and it takes you to an entire list of documents having to do with the back engineering of extraterrestrial craft by the Germans back in the 1930s. What? I mean, there's a lot of references there to extraterrestrial aircraft. Some of them I do believe, of course, that they are back engineered, and they are terrestrial. They are U.S. Air Force dark ops or whatever. But the question is, where do they get that technology? So, this is something that's really got have me pondering these points. And I'd like to know what your feelings are. Again, the phone number here is 215-867-8255. And if you've seen something, I'd like to hear about it. If you think that I'm a wacko tinfoil hat conspiracy theory nutcase, then I want to hear about that too. But I do want to tell you that, look, I'm not stupid, I'm not crazy, and I don't lie. So, I mean, I'm sharing with you my own personal experiences, and I have no skin in the game, no reason to make something up. I'm on a quest for truth, and they say the truth is never easy to find. They've also said the truth is not stranger than anything that you've ever imagined. They also say that the truth is stranger than anything you could possibly imagine. So there are a lot of things that go on that, a lot of us it's beyond our comprehension. But I want to comprehend it. I want to know. So anyway, again, the phone number here is 215-867-8255. It's wide open if you want to call. And I wanted to share that with you because, like I said, they're really ramping up the interests, and it's all over, it's all over all these different websites. People are starting to refer to the, not just this, this 3I/Atlas anomaly coming into our solar system, but more and more people are starting to look at the, the possibility and maybe the probability that, yes, there are extraterrestrials. There are intelligent alien beings that have been around since the dawn of mankind. And maybe those extraterrestrials are what is referred to in the Bible as angels. And maybe there is a spiritual world, a different dimension, where these entities or these spirits exist, and they're not in the physical, but in a different dimension. And they do occasionally interact with the third dimension, which would be us, humans. So I'm just trying to figure this stuff out. And so, like I said, I go back and I look at some of the stuff, as far as biblical references are concerned, and I try to figure that, how does that fit together? How does, if an angel comes down and talks to somebody, gives them a vision, or actually physically speaks to them, how does that work? And what would be the point? So, and then there's also there's more discussion about, you've seen the TV show Ancient Aliens, and ancient artifacts, ancient technologies, et cetera, and I thoroughly believe that. I mean, they're finding more and more stuff that is mind-blowing. I'm sure many of you probably heard about the structures that they found underneath the Great Pyramids in Egypt. Yeah. If you haven't checked that out, do some research on that one. There was a group, I think there were Italian and French researchers that used Doppler and sophisticated radar and satellite imagery, and they found that there are huge structures underneath the Great Pyramid that go down 2 kilometers. And we're talking about huge cylindrical tubes, if you will, underneath the Great Pyramid that go all the way down. I think at one point I read it was like 650-something meters. And at the bottom of these tubes are 2 huge chambers that are 80 meters by 80 meters. I mean, we're talking enormous structures buried under the pyramids. Now, is this real? I don't know. But if it is, it changes everything. And then, what was it, about 20 years ago, in Bosnia, some researchers and archaeologists were taking another look at this big mountain. And they said, wait a second, that mountain sure looks symmetrical. I'm going to go up there and take a look. And so they started poking around on this Bosnian mountain, and they came to a conclusion that it is not just a mountain. It's a pyramid, a huge pyramid, like 5 times the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And then, of course, there are the pyramids that have been found all over the globe, in South America and Central America and in the Far East and even in Europe and even here in the United States. So what's the deal with these pyramids? And are they on ley lines that encircle the globe? Energy vortexes? I don't know. But something's telling me that we, as a civilization, as I don't know, however old this is. I mean, our history books say we're about 6,000 years old. That's as far as back as our recorded history goes. But they're finding things now that could well be 50,000 years old. We've all heard about the lost city of Atlantis and Lemuria, etc., etc. Were they legendary or were they real? Was there or were there several great resets in this planet's evolution of humanity and intelligent life? I don't know. These are questions for greater minds than mine. But the more I look, the more I want to know. And the more I look, the more questions I have asked. And there's that saying: the more you know you don't know. As a matter of fact, the Tower of Power did a song about that. I should pull that up. That's a pretty interesting tune. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because there is more and more people out there that are talking about this, and they're also talking about a spiritual battle that we are experiencing right now. And I think a lot of people would not disagree with that. I mean, we are faced right now with a truly obvious battle of good versus evil. And we're trying to figure out who the evil ones are, who are the good ones. There's all this stuff that's going on in Israel and Palestine, et cetera, and there's a big debate right there. Are they really God's chosen people? I don't know. Are they imposters? Well, the Bible says that there are Jews that claim they are Jews, but they are not. So, and those are the words of Yeshua in Revelation. I think it was 2:9 and in 3:9. So yeah, there's a lot of evil out there. And I'm just trying to figure this out. We were talking a couple days ago about whether or not the Israelis or Israel. What is Israel? Israel a country or is it a nation? There's a big difference. I was mentioning, Red Sox Nation. Yeah, all of the Red Sox fans, Boston. Red Sox Nation. Does that mean that there's a country? A real country with borders called Red Sox? Of course not. It's a nation of people with a similar belief. Okay? Well, how does that apply to the nation of Israel? Is it actually a country? Was it supposed to be a country with borders? Or was it actually a people? Now, of course, I went back to Genesis 32, I think it was. Yeah, let me see, here it is. And 32. Verse 27, it says, and he said unto him, and that's God talking to Jacob, he says, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed. Okay, so God told Jacob that you're not going to be called Jacob anymore. He says you're going to be called Israel. So Jacob's name became Israel, and Jacob had 12 sons, and of course that's the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, did they all have borders and laws and councils and armies? No. Israel was a people. Now, the way I understand it, that's what it means. Israel is a people. They are the descendants of Jacob who had a contract with God, and God promised them he would, you'd have the promised land. Okay, now what is the promised land? That remains to be seen. The way I see it is as long as you kept your contract and you kept the laws of God, then the whole world would be your country. The whole world would be your nation, the nation of Israel. But, in the past 150 years, things have changed. Yeah, all of a sudden we got this guy, Herzl. Yeah, he's the guy that thunk up the concept of Zionism. And that's a whole can of worms. But we've talked about that too. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break. And again, the phone number here is 215-867-8255. If you've got something to say about extraterrestrials or entities or spirits or demons or angels or whatever, I want to hear from you, especially if you saw something. I'll be right back. Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary. And you can get More Tank by visiting our website, TheWTFReports.com. And when you click on the sponsors page, it'll take you down to a window where you can click on it, and it'll take you to the GetMoreTank.com website. You could read all about the specifications and details, how and why this catalyst works. That's right, it's a catalyst. It's not a fuel additive. It's a fuel catalyst. Big difference. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to be talking to Andy Stewart later on this week, and he can explain in greater detail the difference between a fuel additive and a fuel catalyst. Because what this stuff does, it makes your car run much more efficiently at a lower temperature, much cleaner, and after a tank or two, you're going to start to see increased mileage, like I did with my car. And depending upon your driving habits and, of course, the make, model, and year of your vehicle, you'll see anywhere between 15 and 20% improvement in mileage, which means money in your pocket. So if you haven't checked it out, it's a no-brainer, folks. For only $20, you get 5 tablets, and that's 5 tanks of gas. And by the end of that usage, you will have noticed a significant difference in how your car performs and also the increased mileage. So please visit our website, TheWTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors page and get More Tank. Okay, that said, I'm going to change subjects a little bit because I don't think that there's anybody who could disagree with the fact that we, the American people, have been financially screwed over. We know that we've been taxed to death. And as a matter of fact, I even wrote a song about that. Let me see if I can pull that up here. Where is it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is a brief clip from the title cut of my 3rd album, and that was about 20 years ago. And this basically, it's like a little history lesson. And yeah, we've been getting screwed over our entire lives to the point where we're just used to it. It's normal. Listen up to this.
And as this country prospered, there were those who couldn't stand to see the common people as the rulers of their land. A small cabal of rich men then meticulously planned, regaining their control with an economic hand. For many generations and through the countless years, their money paid for influence and their tactics played on fears, until each politician, corporate leader, CEO understood they had to play along or say they didn't know. Don't let it slip away. The framers tried to warn us. Forever vigilant is what we have to be. Be on your guard, defend your Constitution, or your republic will succumb to tyranny.
Yeah, I tell you, I don't know how I knew that was all going to happen, but yeah, it was 20 years ago. Title cut from the 3rd album, Forever Vigilant. And you can hear all my music for free. Just go to YouTube and type in my name, do a little search. You'll find all the music there, all 3 albums out there absolutely for free. So, because it's not about the money, it's not about the praise and the accolades and the ego stroke. I'm revulsed by that. I don't do it because I want to make money or because I got to be, honored and all that stuff. No, that's not why I do it. I do it because it's a message that needs to be heard. At least that's what I believe. So, but But anyway, we're getting screwed over left and right. As a matter of fact, there's a guy, let me see, what's his name here? Carl DeMaine, I believe it is. Yeah, okay. And he's talking about the pensions in California. Okay, the California Democrats have given themselves 6-figure pensions for life. Listen to this.
Your Social Security and 401k retirement accounts. Do you know that California state and local government employees are earning 6-figure pensions every year for life, higher than the highest salary they actually earned while working? All of that is part of California's looming pension crisis, and you're on the hook to pay for all of it. Billions in liabilities. Coming up, we're going to blow the lid open on this pension crisis facing California taxpayers and what we're doing to fight back to save you from having to pay for it. To watch the full episode of this show, click on the link in this post or go to our website, reformedcalifornia.org, click under podcast to view the full episode on this topic.
Okay, his name is Carl DeMaio, and that's DEMAIO. Okay, Carl DeMaio. And that's the California Reform Party, I guess, that they're trying to form. So, but anyway, that's really interesting, don't you think? 6-figure pensions for people who served for what, 1 or 2 terms? Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. So just so you know, let me see. There's another song. Let me see. We continue to work. We continue to. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember my own lyric here. Oh yeah, we continue to trust such a small group of men who have robbed us before, and they'll do it again. Yes, they worship the dollar, the silver, the gold, and they haven't a soul. It's already been sold. That's where we're at. Anything to make that money. Yeah, gotta have that money. Anyway, I'm just poking through again. I got so many tabs open on my computer here, and plus I've grabbed a whole bunch of audio clips, which I'm never going to get to on today's program. But a lot more now is starting to come out about the hokey pokey thingy dingy. Yeah, I mean, this is some scary, scary stuff. There's a woman by the name of Christine Northrup, and she is echoing the research that was done by Dr. Naomi Wolf. Now, we talked about this several weeks ago, about the results of a lot of the women that are experiencing who received the hokey pokey thingy dingy. And I can't help but think when you watch this stuff, it's intentional. There's no other way. They knew about this stuff. That's the stuff what Naomi Wolf was screaming about. Remember all those papers that Pfizer wanted buried for 75 years? When they ended up having to release them, and in those papers was all the data. They knew this was premeditated. It was deliberate. Let that sink in. This was not a mistake. It wasn't overlooked. No, oh gosh, we didn't know. We're sorry. Yeah, oh, we're so sorry.
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 We're sorry.
Oh, sorry.
We're sorry. We're sorry.
No, I'm sorry. It's not about being sorry. It's the fact that you lied. Anyway, here's Christine Northrup, and she's talking about the research that was done that's been uncovered. If this doesn't curl your hair and straighten it and then curl your hair again, I don't know what will.
Is from my colleague, Dr. Carrie Made, who's been in touch with fertility clinics. They've never seen anything like it. The sperm of inoculated men does not swim. The eggs of inoculated women do not grow into embryos. And those that do have a huge amount of contamination with stuff that's non-organic. What's going on here? We also know that according to the first New England Journal of Medicine study saying that Pfizer was safe and effective, this was in June of 2021. If you look at the raw data, it proves that 80% of the women who get the shot in the first and second trimester, basically 0 to 20 weeks, have an 80% miscarriage rate. Now, the miscarriage rate, just baseline, is 1 in 6. It's now 7 to 8 times that much. Dr. James Thorpe points out that there's a 79% increase in fetal malformations. There are unprecedented numbers of stillbirths. But again, this stuff becomes so censored that the mainstream says, oh, no, that's a lie. You're making that up. We also just published My Cycle Story with many scientists, including Dr. Hooker here, where we had a database of over 6,000 women that came forward because their voices were being silenced. We had a group of about 20,000 women on Facebook who were talking about their experience with their menstrual cycle. They'd never seen anything like it. 90-year-olds beginning bleeding again. And we're not talking mild bleeding. We're talking clotting. I had women calling me who had been passing clots for weeks and weeks. We have 2 VAERS cases of little girls, 18-month-old girls, who hemorrhaged and died. In My Cycle Story, so we had over 6,000 women. Then we looked at the baseline rate of what's called a decidual cast shedding, decidual cast, passing a decidual cast. That is where the entire inside of the uterus just is shed all at once as a piece. It looks just like a plaster cast of the inside of the uterus. In our data, as I recall, it was like 269 women reported this. Most of our original database were women who hadn't even had the shot. It's doing something to the coagulation pathways in the body. That is just the tip of the iceberg. I keep thinking, when these young women realize they will never be able to get pregnant because they had that shot, I mean, the horror of it is unimaginable.
It really is. It really is. Again, that's Christine Northrup. And, yep, she's telling it like it is. And yes, and again, they knew. This was premeditated. It was deliberate. It was, it's, again, population reduction. This is the number one goal of the globalist agenda, is to reduce the population to 500 million. It was etched in granite at the Georgia Guidestones. It said, quote, maintain humanity at no more than 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. That's the number one tenet. So they want to reduce the population drastically. And any of the doctors that have the guts to stand up against this draconian, satanic plan that these globalists have been facing all kinds of ramifications and punishments. Here's Dr. Marty McCary.
We just watched our government, in my opinion, do the most dangerous thing a government could ever possibly do. They pushed through a novel vaccine through the FDA, firing 2 of the top vaccine experts at the agency who opposed its approval for young, healthy kids as a booster shot. Then they mandated it on the population and then silenced many doctors who raised concerns saying, hey, we'd like to see the data before we recommend it. That's a very dangerous thing. And that's what we just saw from the so-called party of science. Look, I'm politically independent. I don't have an allegiance to a party. But the purpose of science is to have transparency and an open dialogue. That means we should disagree and evolve our position as new data comes in.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's the way it works. That's the way it works. And remember, during the entire pandemic, they were telling you that, don't you dare take that horse goo. Don't you take that parasite medicine that they give to dogs and horses. No, ivermectin bad. Ivermectin bad. You take that oh gosh, and you couldn't get it. It was banned. You couldn't talk about it. Well, now they're actually recommending ivermectin for some of these illnesses people are having. Oh, we made a mistake. Oh, sorry.
We're sorry.
No, you were lying. Liar! Again and again, over and over. So that that indicates intent. Okay, do you get it? Do you grope what's going on here? And again, who were the people behind it? and what drives them to do these dastardly things.
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Yeah, and who do you suppose is blackmailing them? Who do you suppose is coercing them or bribing them? It's funny because all these leaders of all these pharmaceutical companies and all these big corporations that were pushing this and pushing the lockdowns and stuff, they all have this really funny looking star that represents them. I wonder what that star is. There's a guy named Steve Rosen, and he was former AIPAC editor. That's right. He was the editor for the American Israeli Political Action Committee. And you know what he had to say about AIPAC?
Back when I first started AIPAC, Steve Rosen, who was my boss and was later indicted for espionage against the United States. I know, like, he's still around, though. You're allowed to get indicted for espionage. Depends who you're doing it for. He sent me a now famous memo. It's now famous because I gave it to the Washington Post. He wrote, he warned me not to ever talk, this is my second day there, never to talk about AIPAC's activities outside the lobby. He wrote, a lobby is a night flower. It thrives in the dark and shrivels up in the sunlight. I think that may be happening now thanks to all our efforts. If it does, not only the United States, but the world will be better off. This night flower needs crushing.
Wow, that's what he said about AIPAC. Do you get that? He was a former editor for AIPAC, and he was referring to Steve Rosen. So sometimes the truth does get out there. Sometimes it does. But I got to tell you, there is, there's a lot of folks out there that are saying, oh, well, we can't turn our backs on Israel. I mean, they're God's chosen people. Got to remember the Holocaust. Remember that Israel's our greatest ally. Israel has a right to defend itself. Well, according to Sean King from the North Star, he did some research and they found that 654 out of 654, that means every single one of these Thai agricultural workers, there were immigrant workers that came to work in Israel, every single one of them was sexually abused. Let that settle in. In October of 2021, buried inside a Knesset committee hearing, and by the way, the Knesset is basically Congress in Israel, a fact emerged that is so staggering, so damning, that it should have made front page headlines across the globe. According to research presented to Israel's Special Committee on Foreign Workers, every single Thai agricultural worker surveyed in Israel, 654 out of 654 reported being sexually assaulted on the job. Well, that's what you get when you work with God's chosen people, right? I mean, how do you reconcile that? I mean, I don't get it. I really don't. It's just amazing. I mean, we hear about this all the time. So in the meantime, you've got our elected officials, like Kash Patel. Kash Patel, what happened to Kash? What happened, Kash?
We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel. We need to bring home Americans and end this war, bring home Israelis, and make sure we stand by our number one ally in Israel.
It's real easy to end this war. You stop sending the bombs and the guns and the planes. That's how you stop it. But no, you can't do that. You'll upset the money flow for the military-industrial complex. Shik-shing, shik-shing. How are you ever going to live this down? How do you ever live this down? There's a guy, Alan Shapiro, and he had this to say.
I know war. What's going on in Palestine right now is not a war. My name is Alan Shapiro. I was with 3rd Special Forces Group. I was a sniper, assaulter, and a breacher. I know war. What's going on in Palestine right now is not a war. It's the genocide, it's the ethnic cleansing of a specific people to take their land. This is wrong. And there's nothing more American than speaking out against what's wrong. The U.S. taxpayer is paying for this, which makes it even more frustrating. I'm paying for this. I am seeing what's happening to this. I am an American. I'm a patriot. This needs to stop.
Yes, it does need to stop. All right, I just heard that bong-goody, bung, 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 bung. That means we got a caller. Let's go to the phones, and let's see. I recognize the phone number as Cynthia. Hey, Cynthia, how are you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm glad to hear on this topic that we are involved in a war against a people, a genocide. By the way, here's an idea to take to your liberal friends, which is that any member of Congress who's voted to send money to another country has violated the Constitution and violated their oath of office, because there is no enumeration for sending money to another country.
You're right.
And people don't realize that because we've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
And any president who signed it and agreed to it has also violated the oath of office.
It's called treason.
Right. So if they want to
It's
stop
simple.
genocide, pursue the oaths of office violations.
Well, let's say that, if you were born riding on a bus, let's say your mom was riding in the back of a bus and she was pregnant and she gives birth and you're born on this bus, and the bus, all of the wheels are flat, and you're riding down the highway and the bus is shaking. That's all you know. You don't know what a smooth ride is. So you don't know that there could be anything better than that. And that's the way it is with the American people. We've been born into this situation where it's so corrupt, so screwed up, so bad, but we don't know any better. I mean, it's sad, but that seems to be the way it is.
But that's why you exist, Dave.
Oh, why I exist? Well, you want me to go out and change the tires? I'm not a mechanic. Oh, my gosh. All right. Well, let me ask you this. I started off the first half of the program talking about aliens and ETs and angels and demons. Have you ever seen anything up in the sky that you couldn't explain? Have you ever seen a UFO or anything like that?
Well, one night here in San Francisco, there was something hovering silently way up there. Obviously not so far away that it was a star. And I just assumed that they have already figured out how to do an energy transfer that is silent, and that we obtained that apparently from a scientist who was employed by the Navy some decades ago, and he was never really recognized for it, but he taught them how to do it. Can't remember the name. If I find that, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
But we've known how to do what looks like anti-gravity quite a while, and they simply have put it under a black budget where we aren't allowed access to it, even though it's possibly a very way of getting around the petroleum industry.
Oh, yeah.
And doing these wars in order to generate more funds for the banksters.
Right. Well, this is the priority as far as our civilization is concerned, and I'm not just talking about the United States. I'm talking about the entire world. Everybody is in it for the money. Money, they got that dollar sign, that is God to them. Okay? And it's if there's no bottom line, then they don't want to have anything to do with it. It doesn't make any difference what religion that you subscribe to, as long as you can make the money. It's again, you're known by your fruits and not, and your deeds. And as far as I'm concerned, you can say that you're a good Christian or a good Jew or a good Muslim or everything, but if you're chasing that almighty dollar, then the dollar is your God. Simple as that.
Well, I concur with that. And speaking of money, I've been begging you to check into whether the methylene blue has the characteristic that Anna, a healthy house, does, where it helps to break up the system that they tried to install in us. So that, because I'm concerned about people being told to vote a certain way, and that the 5G towers might transmit the message, and they'll do as they're told because of the system, the operating system that was installed in them with the vaccination.
Yeah, and it is an operating system. That's another topic of discussion, another rabbit hole we can go down. Lipid particles, graphene oxide, nanobots. My gosh, what else are they throwing at us?
Well, I purchase and I buy and use a methylene blue that I sure would like to buy it from the most verifiable source I could, and that.
Yep. Okay, I'll tell you what, I got another caller coming in. I'm running out of time, so I want to be fair to the other caller. Thank you for calling in, Cynthia. I always appreciate your participation. Okay, let's see if we can go to, let's go to the other caller. Okay, let's see. Click here. Come on, click there. Oh, come on now. I got to learn how to do this one here. All right, I got to hang up from Cynthia, I think. Yeah. Cynthia, thanks again. Thanks for calling. I got to let you go. Okay, now we can go to the caller. Okay, hello, caller. You're, let me see. How do I get you off a hold? There we go. Bang. Okay, you're on the air. Go ahead. Who are you and where are you calling from? Hello, caller. One more time. Somebody called in. Are you on? Are you listening to the radio or the computer, or are you on your phone? I guess not. Oh, well. Okay. Disconnect from that. You can call back if you want to. Okay, let's see. We've got a couple minutes here left. Okay, I was talking about God's chosen people. Okay, now if God is going to give Israel, the people, a land, then why would the people have to kill, destroy another people to get the land? That doesn't make sense to me. But the Israel is doing some horrible things.
Did you know that Israel forbids Palestinians
Wait a second. Okay, let me start that over again. What Israel is doing to the water supply in the areas where the Palestinians live, listen to this. Oh, well, here we go.
Did you know that Israel forbids Palestinians in the occupied West Bank from harvesting rainwater, which has been a Palestinian tradition for centuries? Well, according to this UN report, the Israeli military states that rain is the property of the Israeli authorities, and thus Palestinians are forbidden from gathering rainwater for domestic or agricultural needs.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there. Yeah, so the Israeli government has declared that rain belongs to them, and that the Palestinians are not allowed to collect rainwater for any purpose whatsoever. And I'm not going to have time to continue to play this longer clip, but I've seen the videos of them destroying the wells. I mean, at one point they brought in a concrete truck and they were pouring concrete into the well that was supplying the Palestinians. So, I mean, is this the actions of God's chosen people? I mean, come on, really, honestly, if God wrestled with Jacob and told Jacob that your name is now Israel, and Jacob's 12 sons became the 12 tribes, and God said that, you keep the contract and, you will be led to the promised land. Do you think that by doing what the Israelis are doing, do you think that they're keeping God's contract? Do you think that they're prescribing to the 10 Commandments? Seriously? I mean, really? I don't think that there's anybody that could agree with that. But I mean, I'm just asking people to start thinking. I mean, you can make excuses all that you want because we've been told over and over and over through our entire lives, it's the Holocaust. 6 million, our greatest ally. They have a right to defend themselves. 6 million. It was the Holocaust. Oh, Israel's our greatest ally. They have a right to defend themselves. 6 million, Holocaust, right to defend. Greatest ally, 6 million, Holocaust, right to defend, ally, 6 million, over and over and over again. But you know what? Who was it? Joseph Goebbels that said, a lie told often enough becomes the truth. And the greater the lie, the more apt the people will believe it. Are we falling into that? I don't know, folks. You got to think outside the cage. Like I said, thinking outside the box is one thing, but boxes are usually made out of cardboard or flimsy wood. You can break out of a box, but a cage? That takes a little bit more effort. And if the truth is never easy to find, and how easy is it to swallow the garbage that they're throwing at you from the mainstream legacy media? If you want the truth, you have to dig for it. You have to look for it. And you have to look again because there's a lot of deception out there. Anyway, that said, that's going to wrap it up for today's Tuesday installment of the WTF Reports. And as always, I ask you to do business with our sponsors. Pick up some merch. Get a baseball cap, a T-shirt, a coffee mug, or get a T-shirt that says bribery, coercion, and blackmail. That said, okay, folks, we're out of here. I'll be back again tomorrow with more of the news they hope and pray you never hear. I'm Dave vonKleist. These are the WTF Reports. Thank you all for listening. God bless you all. And stay safe and stay free. And I'll see you tomorrow.